Jennings played just short of 600 games for Spurs, helping the club to win an FA Cup, 2 League Cups and a UEFA Cup triumph. He was the first man on the team sheet and the last line of defence.
We used to take it for granted that he was going to stop most things going towards a goal. We left him for all crosses. It was either him or Mike England if he headed the ball. Because if we were honest, Joe Kinnear and Cyril Knowles and Phil Bill weren't dynamic in the air. They left everything to the two big fellas. And they worked very well together. But Pat saved 2 penalties at Liverpool one day, and we weren't surprised. We expected everything. We expected everything from him. He was capable of stopping it, all shots, and with those great big hands of his, he stopped more than he ever missed.
I'm Tottenham through and through, as you know, but it's about supporters. We've got fantastic support here, and it's just, for me, it's my only club really.
Hibbett with this corner for Wolves. Hit towards Bailey, on the volley, oh, and what a save again! Absolutely amazing.
We have mentioned a few players in the history of the club to notch up over 100 goals for Spurs. It is an elite club, but not as exclusive as the 200-plus club. Only Jimmy Greaves and Bobby Smith can boast that honour.
Your number 9 is there to put the ball in the onion bag, as they say, to use the cliche. Bobby Smith was supremely good at that.
Dyson back there calling for it. Smith, he took that magnificently. A great goal, a beautiful goal.
In a way, he was the strong shoulder that Jimmy played off, and Jimmy would have gained an awful lot from the fact that the physical presence of Bobby Smith was there. He wasn't as quick as Jimmy, in my view. Didn't see the chance quite as quick, but he wasn't far behind.
He was fantastic, Jimmy. You know, I mean, he took the ball off me. I mean, I did a lot of bumping and boring, which a centre forward's got to do, and he's got to make gaps for other people. But Jimmy was so good. You could be out the game for 20 minutes, and all of a sudden you'd go up the field, bang 2 goals in. He's a terrific player to play with.
But when he signed in 1955, Spurs were not the dominant force of the teams at the beginning of the decades.
We were down the bottom nearly all the time, you know, and you start thinking this and that you're going to go down, but we tried our hardest and we got out of it. We got a good team together, and then the next year we started to click a little bit.
I think Chelsea had every reason to regret transferring him. He was physically a very, very strong player, and he played well for England.
Spurs, however, came back in earnest, and after 25 minutes play, they opened through Smith. The light was anything but good in the second half, and the ground was a quagmire, but the Spurs kept at it. Smith's second goal made it 3-0.
His record for the club is incredible, and with 208 goals in 317 games, his goals-to-games ratio stacks up alongside Jimmy Greaves. Had he played more for Spurs, he would have certainly matched him for goals. He was truly a fantastic striker.
When I come to Tottenham, I was a different player. I learnt a lot of things, and working with the lads and all that, and I really was on top of the world. And I will never regret coming to Tottenham. I thought it was the best club in the world when we won the double, and I still think the best club in the world.
Cliff Jones is an extraordinary player. He was from this famous Jones family. His uncle was Bryn Jones, who in 1938 became the most expensive player in the history of football when Arsenal played. And you have to multiply a lot, £14,000 to Wolves for him. That was his uncle. He was an outside left, but he was a player of incredible bravery. And he had pace, he was elusive, had a very good left foot, or he could play on the right if you wanted him to, and he was extraordinary at diving at balls in the goal mouth, almost at knee height, you know, never mind the boots, and heading the most extraordinary goals, remarkable goals. I thought he was a heck of a player. He's a very fine player and a very brave one.
I always, was aware of sort of my ability with the ball, and when I picked the ball up, I sensed an expectancy in the crowd, and I just, responded to it. And for me to get the ball and go at defenders was something which I just loved doing, and it, for me, was my main part of my game. And yes, I was given a little sort of a bit of a free role, if you like, with Bill Nicholson, and that sort of, but I still had to do it within the structure of teamwork.
He had a bit of pace, and for a small man, very, very brave. And you get about the park, and his heading for a little fellow was tremendous. Being 5'7" or maybe 5'8", his heading, he was just a person that he wanted in the team, because when you give him the ball, he'd give the defence a bit of a breather if we were under pressure, which we were at lots of times, because of that particular era. Everybody wanted to be Tottenham.
He had a short spell at playing as inside forward, but he was absolute classic progressive winger. Two-footed. He played in one cup final on the right wing, and the next cup final in 61-62, this is back on the left wing, because Terry Medman was back in the side. Wonderful arrow-like runs, would run across defenders and take a lot of stick as a result. Tottenham picked up lots of free kicks for a defender who was despairing at the pace of the man. Very brave, would go in where it hurts. He was only 5'7", brilliant in the air. So he was a class act, Cliff Jones, no question.
Ozzy was the most astute player I've ever played with, who read the game incredibly well, and I learnt so much about reading the game from Ozzy. And when I was younger, where he would put me in little positions where I'm thinking, and the ball would come, and you think, well, that's his experience, and I had so much respect for those two.
One of, if not the biggest signing in Tottenham Hotspur history, Ozzy Ardiles came across from Argentina on the back of helping his country win the World Cup.
I was in Argentina after winning the World Cup. I mean, everybody knew that I wanted to come and play in Europe, but when we were talking about Europe in Argentina, that was meant to be Spain, Italy, France, never England. I mean, England never crossed our mind. But suddenly there was a guy there, Keith Burkinshaw, that wanted to sign me. So suddenly the contract was on the table, and I decided yes, and the rest is a long story.
I just think Ozzy came with so much experience. He was an absolute first-class player, but also a real character. He was really relaxed about playing football. I think that's because he had so much ability. He had a lot of confidence in his own ability, but a really nice man with it.
There were a lot of raised eyebrows when Keith Burkinshaw plundered South America for his new signings, particularly taking into account the club's precarious position in the league at the time.
Tottenham was coming from the second division, so that means survival was the name of the game. And Tottenham was the third team that coming from the second division, so that means we were the candidate to go down very quickly. It was a big gamble from Keith Burkinshaw, the manager. Suddenly 2 new players, Rick and me, and how we are going to adapt, etc., etc. There were a lot of questions about that. We were the first 2 foreigners, so. But little by little we started to be a very good team.
The team did go from strength to strength, but it wasn't until 1981 when they finally achieved cup success, winning the FA Cup final. And Ozzy got to play alongside another couple of Spurs legends.
And to the final, Chas and they were our musical inspirations, or musical partners, and they decided to make a song. And the song was centered in a kind of my dream. My dream was to play in Wembley. That I have said that, of course, before. I wanted to play in Wembley. Before I finished my career as a football player, I wanted to play in Wembley. Wembley was the cathedral of football, so I wanted to play there. And so they did this wonderful song.